Yes, that's what we doing. That's what we doing then. All right, then fine.
I guess so. We're stalling for time. But anyway. No, but what's so funny is we talk all the time. So
I know, right?
Supposed to have an interview, but I was saying things like, what the heck are we gonna talk about?
Whatever we want.
We talk about everything all the time.
We do.
Oh, here they come. Oh, we got some action here.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna wait until it's good. Y'all good?
I think we're good.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. All right, I've got a few of our folks showing up as well from Saturday AM, so they'll be here just to be a part of the experience. So,
all right, this is definitely going to be the largest panel in the BCU this weekend for sure.
No worries.
I really appreciate y'all coming out because I was surprised when I heard that you guys were going to be joining us. I don't see a lot of press. I follow you guys, but I don't see a lot of press, and I was just so honored to have you guys join us.
Well, we're honored to be featured here. So we, in the past year, we actually have a PR person, someone who works in my press team, and her name's Jackie. And she's actually done quite well. We've been featured on Anime News Network. We've been featured on Comicosity, Comic Book Resources, Anime Motivation, top site out of the UK with a brother that runs that. So we've actually done pretty well on the press side of things. But obviously, we hope to get bigger, keep going, and obviously, being part of events like this is a huge honor for us.
All right, I appreciate you guys for showing up. How many are we expecting? I'm like everything. This thing constantly keeps popping.
Yeah, I think this is it right here. It's I wanted a handful of our folks from around the world. So,
would you like to introduce everybody, or do you want everybody to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I'll introduce them and let them say something real fast for each of themselves, for each one. First up, we have Mitch Proctor, who is from the United Kingdom. We're really honored to work with Mitch. Mitch has helped us streamline our design, so that the stuff you ever see in our content, it always has a design focus to it beyond just the manga aesthetic. And Mitch has been instrumental in helping that happen. He's also doing a series for us that features an LGBTQ lead, which is an area that we also want to make sure we bring more attention to. And so Mitch is representing the UK. So Mitch, say hey to everybody.
Hey, everybody. What a great intro. Wow. Keep going.
Mitch's series is called Hitchin', by the way. It's an imagine we have called Saturday Brunch. We'll talk about the Saturday stuff here in a moment. Next up, we have J.R. DeBard. He's a young man we actually met in New York for Anime NYC. He reached out to us directly to showcase his work. Amazingly talented young man, New Yorker. He's doing a series called Underground, which stars a really powerful, young, biracial black man who's out there trying his damnedest to get into the field of MMA, kickboxing, and trying to break through an underground sport of it. He is with a magazine we have called Saturday PM, which speaks to an older demographic. And so J.R. DeBard is here as well. So say hello, J.R.
Hey, great to meet you. Nothing more I can say. That's basically covers everything about me.
J.R. laughs a lot, everybody. So y'all he's only stopped by another person we have on this very chat, and you'll get to him, and we'll get to him in a moment. We have next we have Fred Tornager. This beautiful young woman is from Denmark. She's doing a series called Gunhild, which is based on Norse mythology, but it's very, very cool. A lot of readers will love it, whether you're male or female, whether you're young or old. It's really, really gorgeous. Really, really cool series. Fred, say hello, Fred.
Hello. Good to be here.
Thank you, Fred. Next up, we have my man from Senegal, first brother from Senegal. And I'm so happy with him. He's a visionary, truly. This young man got incredible potential. We've been really honored to work with him. He's doing a series called Oblivion Rouge. And I think a lot of folks are going to be hearing about the series in the next couple of years. We think it's got potential to win awards and all sorts of stuff. But it's a really Afrofuturistic take on young black children and kind of the struggles they face in this sort of futuristic society within Africa. Pop Sule, you want to say hello to everybody?
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Pop Sule, probably you need to tell them when I normally ask to speak, when you and I normally talk, Pop Sule, what do I hear going on in the background?
I'm usually like in a wood shop, so there's like all these gear. Sounds like you're hearing like a house being made or something like that, or like a boat or something. It's just metal, wood, everything that you can think about is there.
So I want everybody at Peep Game to know. I made that boy know today. I was like, don't disrupt Peep Game today. Please don't do them damage to their ears with a bunch of woodchucking going on and steel grinding going on and stuff. It already hurts me. I'm old, but I want to protect your audience. Last but not least, we got Jay Odin. Yeah, no worries. And last but not least, we got Jay Odin. And of course, Jay's been with us not really as long as our founders. We started with a couple of founders, fellow artists. But Jay's, I think he's been here forever. He's a good friend, great leader, hard worker. He does a series for us called Hammer, which is super popular. But beyond that, he just dropped, I mean, this is how prolific he is. He just dropped a graphic novel with Oni Press, which you guys, of course, all know Oni Press, called Lemonade Code. So I'm always, happy to have a chance to work with Jay Odin and to have him as part of chats like this. So Jay, hello, Jay.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, y'all, if y'all didn't catch it, Jay, that little laugh Jay gave, you're gonna hear that a lot if we call on Jay throughout this call. Jay laughs worse than J.R. DeBar, and J.R. DeBar is like the Joker. So, this is a there you go. So,
I'm giggling.
This is a small group. We Saturday AM. My name is Frederick, by the way, founder and publisher of Saturday AM, world's most diverse manga anthology. We have, as you see, creators from all over the world. We are a Black-owned company, but our view of things is that everybody gets to play. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter how you come about what you produce, as long as you're producing positive content with a diverse selection of characters, something that unfortunately is not normal in the anime manga world. Then our belief is that you have a home here with us. So I started the company back in 2013. We have just incredible creators. We have partnerships with some of the biggest companies in the world. Celsius, who makes Clip Studio Paint. Sakura, 100-year-old Japanese art supply company, is working with us currently. Got a company out of South Africa. We have so many groups working with us. So we're very honored to have built this brand. And we've been, killing it since 2013. We've got some big announcements coming soon, but that's pretty much what we do. You guys have probably seen some of our works. This is Apple Black by White Manga, Nigerian creator. So you can see here, again, we have, a lot of, pretty dynamic folks. We even had a line of toys that just got commissioned by a company called Jabberwocky Toys. You can actually get these in Hot Topic. So we got a lot of stuff happening. We're a digital first company. The main way to connect with us is via our app, Saturday of Global Comics. We also have a line of graphic novels. We have a magazine coming soon. We have a ton of stuff coming up.
Okay, thanks a lot, man. You know how to intro a panel there. You took on a lot of work off my plate. I appreciate it. So it's very interesting. I'm really happy you guys came through, because as a parent, I'm going to tell you, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, is that, and I teach comics, so I'm in front of a lot of young people a lot. And what's interesting is that most people on this panel are into comic. Most people in this program are into comic books, but most of the kids that I meet and work with around the age 11 and older, they're all into manga. Right. And they all, as all their characters are, inspired by manga. My son, who's 11, he's already saying he's going to be a mangaka when he grows up. And I mess with him. I sometimes I mess with him and say manga, and he gets upset. He's like, "No, Dad, it's manga." So I want to start as a parent. Can you, explain? Yeah, Jay thought that was hilarious. Yeah, it's funny. I get a kick out of that. Can you explain for parents, if you could give them a primer as to what manga is and how they can get their children in that are interested involved in the not just the books, but then also into the art form?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of pure parts of that, right? And let me kind of hit those one by one. I think the first part is that Japanese manga is very old. I mean, it's first of all, it's the biggest comic book industry in the world. So we think of American superheroes as being dominant, and they are from a pop culture standpoint. But when you get past that element of it and you look specifically at the sales and the people who draw every day and create a living off of it, there is literally nothing bigger than the manga industry in Japan. Like, it is that large. You're talking the average creators are dropping, comics or graphic novels, that are moving, 30, 40, 50,000 units. And here in America, if you get one issue that does that, you consider, that's like pretty good, even though in the grand scheme of things, back in the day, comic book industry back in the 30s and 40s, comics were selling in the millions. We ain't been at that level in a very long time. But the manga industry, all the time. Their top selling book last year, called Kimetsu no Yaiba, or Demon Slayer, sold 82 million copies. 82 million copies. So the manga industry, if your son or your daughter, if y'all watching this and you have a son or daughter who wants to be in the manga industry, understand from a business standpoint, you want them to be in the manga industry. You'd rather them be doing that than drawing Happy the Clown, because that's where the money is right now. That's where the money is. Now, in America, it's not the same thing, of course, because what we're doing is we are a territory that sells manga. So therefore, the manga that we introduce to the market traditionally are just translated versions of the Japanese manga. Therefore, not all the manga comes to America. Not all the manga obviously has the sales that the Japanese versions do. And from that standpoint as well, because the Japanese market is so large, not all the manga is built for people that look like us. So a lot of the content features characters that are Asian. My whole thing, the reason I started my company, was that these characters, a lot of times, were white adjacent, meaning that they looked white for all intents and purposes, but they had Japanese names. And, from an intersectionality standpoint, that's great. But the reality is that someone, by the way, who's actually been to Japan, was a student in Japan, I can tell you that, like, you're going to see Black people walking around Japan. Like, this idea that Black people do not exist in Japan is ridiculous. And so for 20, 30 years, all we've ever heard is that, the Japanese, they don't know anything about Black people. So they don't put Black people in manga. And if they do, it's usually, kind of a really negative, stereotypical look to it. Well, I reject that, because again, I've been there, so I know that's not true. And by the way, I'm old. I shave my beard, so I have been there in the 80s. So let's get it real for a second. They've had Black culture for a long time. Japan is not Afghanistan. They know who Michael Jordan is. They knew who Michael Jackson was. They've long embraced Black culture. So this idea that Black culture does not exist in Japanese manga for any reason other than the fact that they just prefer the aesthetic of the white sort of look and feel is ridiculous. That's never been true. Black culture has always been a part of Japanese culture. It's just that it's never been celebrated. So I started my company to make sure that we change that, and not just for Black culture, but our Latino brothers and sisters, other Asian groups who don't get play in manga. If you're Indian, you're never going to be featured in an anime manga. So we've created a company to change that entire direction, because we do see, to your point, the sales successes of manga. We see the cultural impact of manga. A lot of young people around the world, not just your son, young people around the world, they see anime a lot and they want to draw in that art style. What does it teach them if what they see never looks like them? What does that say to them? What mentality does that give them? I've seen it as a 47-year-old man. When I started this company, when I started the company, I'm 47 now. But when I started the company, I used to have arguments all the time with Black creators about, why are you drawing non-Black characters? Like, you've got this gorgeous skill. Why can't you draw Black characters or Latino characters or Indian characters and so on and so forth? And I got told that, it would seem forced if I did that. No, when the Japanese put white folk in their stuff, that's forced, because there's fewer white people in Japan as any other group. So the idea that somehow white people get to be in manga, like Full Metal Alchemist and so on and so forth, the fact that that is considered normal, but having a black person in manga, by the way, when you've got two of the biggest celebrities in Japan are half black, Naomi Osaka, world lieutenant, just beat Serena Williams, Rui Hachimura, who just had a career night with the Washington Wizards. When you've got black folk who are representing Japanese culture and they can't even get played, then we need to call the elephant in the room and say, no, this is a cultural thing that has been perpetuated. We need to put a stop to that. And the way we do that, if the Japanese aren't going to do it, is that we introduce content. We showcase, like on this panel, the beautiful diversity that the world has. And we say, you know what? Anybody can be a manga hero. And if you're a young person and you want to create manga, it's going to be very difficult if you can't be proud to create manga that looks like you. And so that's what we're here to change. And that's why we started what we did. So I hope that's a lot of pieces, but I hope I answered that for you.
Oh no, that was perfect. I want to go around the room here because it seems like everybody in the room is very entertained by your diatribe.
I would call it a diatribe, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I want to start with Jay because I actually follow you on TikTok, and I like your short lessons that you put on there, and it's definitely very accessible. And I wanted to ask, speaking about kids and how they would even go about starting in this, not just in this art form, in this culture, like what advice do you give to young people as far as getting started?
It's basically, I would say, it's just a matter of, kind of like copying what you see. That's kind of what I did at first. And then, eventually more ideas will come to you and you can just draw from your own imagination. So yeah, just constantly drawing and trying new things. And thanks for following me on TikTok. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
No, people as a learning tool, I've noticed that TikTok is extremely accessible, and a lot of young people are on that platform. So I really appreciate that idea. And then what I'm noticing is that once creatives start to share their process, you start to realize it's like, oh, I had the same process for, drawing black hair too. Or it's like, oh, I have a different, it's like, oh, I'll try that out. Or it's like, my process is a little different. Oh, I never, thought to, start that way. You never think to like say, I need a tutorial on making waves. You never think about that until you started, create characters that have these hair textures or have these styles. Like even one of your very popular posts was about the basically thick women having to draw. Was that your post? Yeah, it was sort of like
I did a video where I was saying I did a video where basically I was saying, hey, this is how you can draw a body type, these different body types for women or men or whatever. And when I drew one for a thick woman, I messed up because I was doing it really quickly, and a lot of people will give me backlash. So I had to, kind of do another one to, reinvent what I was trying to say. And I don't know, it worked out. But I've been trying to make a lot of easy tutorials so that way everybody, no matter what age, group, they can look at it and instantly know exactly what I'm trying to say and follow it. So yeah.
All right, yeah, I really appreciate that.
Let me say real quickly that we're actually coming out with a book. We're in the final throes right now of negotiations, but we've been approached by a company to publish a book, How to Draw Diverse Manga. So we actually putting this together. It's going to have J. Odin, J.R. Bart. It's going to have a host of our white manga. It's going to have a host of our creators in there talking about what you just talked about how do we actually zero in on the responsible and appropriate ways to create diverse characters that capture their ethnicity. Because obviously, as you know, colorism is a whole other strand of the conversation where you throw in black paint or brown paint to signify a character as black. They have no features that identify them as a person of color. We're going to be getting into all of that with the book, so we're really honored about that.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Pop, so what is it like as far as introducing this culture or introducing these stories on the African continent? Because I've been thinking about a lot. I mainly work here in the States, but I'm always saying that the future for even Black creators here is actually on the African continent, that the audience there is far broader and more hungry for a lot of this original content. They are even here in the States, because you run into, as a creator here in the States, you run into, most fans are into the typical Batman and Robin storylines, where it's places, there are places on the African continent like Nigeria and Kenya that are looking for original, content from other diverse communities. Have you experienced any of that, like as far as your community?
Yeah, and I was actually really lucky to take part in organizing like one of the first manga cons in Senegal, which happened like I think a year and a half ago, and just the turnout was incredible. We even had people who skated, people who were tricking, people, just all different types of people and different backgrounds of like what they're interested in, but they like all come together to be like, we love manga, and it's just like really great to know that there's a community for it, and that like you said, people are really, really hungry for it. They're looking for all these characters, and it's just a matter of accessibility. And I think that's like the biggest issue with a lot of like, like with Africa in general as a continent, or even just specific countries like Nigeria or Senegal or francophone or anglophone countries, is that it's a matter of like trying to get the stuff there. And I think that with like this day and age with like TikTok and like Twitter and even Saturday AM, there is a possibility for that to exist. And that's like, and I'm happy to be a part of that, so yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, I've been speaking to that a lot as far as here, even not just here in the States, but the whole accessibility issue. And Fred, I can tell you now, I really appreciate how forward thinking you've been as far as, creating an app around what you guys have been doing. And I know what's interesting, I see that you guys are following the platform that's set up by traditional manga, as far as them getting into digital creative platforms and stuff like that. But I think you're setting the stage for other independent creators to actually take a look at what you guys are doing and sort of emulate that.
Absolutely.
Like I see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, no, first of all, absolutely. I mean, brother, that in our community, so frequently, we get pitted against each other. And that's something that, I'm trying my damnedest to try to make sure we kind of get out of that mindset. We've seen it in hip hop, we've seen it in fashion. I came from the video game industry. It was not quite there because there were too few of us there. But still, it's like we all, anytime we have a chance to blow up, we see it. And so I think that the challenge is always, how do we create the pipeline and get the door open and get all the various pieces that work so that when folks come through, they actually have all the things they need to build it, right? Because at some point it's going to come down to talent and all the things that we know. But first and foremost, it's about the resources, because that's the biggest issue. That's what always affects us, is the resources. Who's got the money? How are you generating revenue? How do you discover and find talent? How do you, be able to position to protect those things? So these are all the things that, for over the 8 years, when we started this, there were no groups talking about diverse manga and then pulling it off. And so when we started doing this, that's been the challenge, is how do we actually build a business out of this? And we've been able to do it, fortunately. And we've seen a lot of folks who come after us, which has been great to see. And I think now the question is just, how do we get things a bit more formal? How do we protect ourselves from exploitation? And how do we ultimately build an opportunity where we can actually make a living at it? Because this is comics. I say this all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't nobody needs us to have a life. You need your power bill, you need your light bill, you need your water, your internet. You don't need my comic. And it's a blessing that you like it, but you don't need it. And so, where the money is, we've got to try to make sure that we can find it, protect it, and make sure that it's there for everybody to participate in.
Okay. Speaking of the pipeline, Fred, how did you find your way as a part of Saturday AM? Did you present, like, what did you present to them, or did they seek you out, or did you seek them out as a fan?
Oh, I seeked them out. I've been following them for a bit and wanted to do something for them. And then the Summer of Manga event came about, and I figured it was a perfect way to introduce myself and what I do.
Okay. And again, what is it you do for the group?
I do shonen style manga, basically.
Okay. Okay.
The series, the series.
What? Oh, yeah.
What's the name?
I do Gunhill, the
Daniel.
Norse mythology manga.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to ask this because what's so funny is, so again, I'm speaking as a parent that has children that are interested in manga and want to be a part of manga and things like that. And it just so happens this interview comes on the heels of me reading an article about Japanese manga artists who are on welfare, who basically can't afford to feed themselves or whatever. And I think that scares a lot of parents in terms of, well, just their child wanting to be a part of the art, having a career in art just scares them anyway, because they just think they're just going to be a starving artist their whole life. But articles like that just makes it even more intimidating, if nothing else. How do you guys manage to put out the amount of work that you guys put out on a regular basis? Because that's another thing I'm impressed by, is that you guys put out an exhaustive amount of work compared to anybody, whether it's, prose writing or comic books in general. The amount of content you guys put out is breathtaking. And how do you, basically, without getting into numbers, how do you guys keep this all together?
Does anyone want to answer that first? Or, I'm happy to chime in. Does anyone want to take a stab at it? Mitch, you want to take a stab at it?
I can try. I think I would probably go to Jay after as well, because Jay's just the amount of output that he produces is unreal. But I think, you kind of touched on it earlier. I think a lot of people, you don't necessarily make comics for money, you do it for love. And I think one of the things that is quite unique about manga in particular, or manga style comics, is that you have to do everything. You don't necessarily have to do everything, but generally when you're starting out, you do. In the West, most comics are full color, so you have a penciler, you have an ink, you have an inker, you have letterers, you have a lot of different separate roles that come together to make the book, right? Generally with manga, it's all one person. Even for professionals, eventually they'll get assistants. But manga artists will usually pay for their assistants out of their own pocket. So it's either you don't sleep, which is quite famously the case, or you get some kind of licensing deal which affords you to get royalties, and then you use that to pay for assistants so you can sleep. And even then, a lot of professional manga artists still don't. Oda, the creator of One Piece, famously, sleeps about 4 hours a night on a good day, and he takes every fourth week off, I think now.
Yeah, now.
You got to love the medium, but is that healthy? Probably not. I don't know. But personally, it's carving out what time you can to do something that you're passionate about, and hopefully the response is positive, and that makes it all worth it. But I don't know. Does anyone else want to kind of speak on that?
let Jay, someone who's worked for a major American comic book publisher. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you, Mitch. You gotta love it. It's definitely. I mean, I know I've seen success stories, and obviously, like there's people like Akira Toriyama, and I know there are people too, like they've made money drawing comics. So I mean, it's possible to do. It's just you gotta get to a point where there's so many people looking at you, and the only way to do that is to stick with it. And if you stick with it, that means that you love it a lot. And if you love it so much that you can try to improve on yourself and try to make your art look better or your story better, like that's generally what I do. And also to Mitch's point, sleeping 4 hours a night, it's not healthy. I can tell you firsthand. Like, I mean, it's just something that happens. But I mean, it's if you love it so much, then sometimes you don't even realize, and every now and then your body will just say, hey, pass out and go to sleep, and then 13 hours later you'll wake up, and then you're just like, oh, okay, cool. So
And then just
I
carry
mean,
on.
yeah, it's literally love, to draw comics. So yeah.
So let me oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just my son is already on that schedule. Believe it or not, he just stays up all night drawing, and then he sleeps during the day on the weekends. And he hates school because pretty much it's taken away from his drawing time. So he's already conditioning his body to take this brutal schedule.
He's a future manga artist, then it sounds like.
Yeah. He's training his body right as we speak.
Well, that's Japan, man. Let me just add 2 quick points. In Japan, manga creators, like, to be a manga creator, the way kids want to be manga creators in Japan is very similar to kids want to be a basketball player, a football player, a rapper here in the States. Like, it is literally that. It is like it's a cultural thing. It's a young person thing. They train for it. The way we have basketball camps here. They have a Hop Step Award in Japan. They have a whole program situated around young people in high school being able to actually get noticed and get ranked and get positioned as a future comic creator. So it's a different animal. And I think that one of the things we try to do at Saturday AM, as you heard Fred earlier mention, we have a program called Summer of Manga. It happens every year. And it's a chance for creators to actually pitch us their comic. And it gets reviewed. If we like it, they have to then talk to a group of our editors. If they like it, they then have to position it towards, they get assigned a creator, maybe we can help them talk about ways you lay out a page and so forth. And then they get a deadline. And we then, they get a chance to get published, and we see what happens with it. But to the point about the money, I do want call attention to one thing, because it's what I said a few minutes ago. I do think one thing that as parents, we have to be very cautious of is that, again, we have to make sure that our young people, I don't care if you're Black, white, Indian, whatever, but if you're American, we got to start having an honest conversation with the fact that, look, being a creator in entertainment is like being Will Smith or being LeBron James. You ain't talking about, there's a difference between the guy who's good at basketball, who can dribble in their neighborhood, who can shoot shots in their neighborhood, who beats everybody in their neighborhood, who then is actually really good in their local elementary, and then good in their local junior high, and then gets a college scholarship, and then gets chosen to be an NBA, and then gets to be LeBron James. There are layers. So when we talk about making a living at it, you can make a living at comic books. It ain't going to be easy. And to then actually have the success that Mitch and Jay and the rest of them were talking about, to get to LeBron James, the Achiro Oda, the Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, that brother did not have his wedding honeymoon until 15 years after he got married. So if you bout it, then you bout it. But we have to be very conscious, and I take every opportunity to get media opportunities like this to put the pressure down and say, look, let's stop acting like this is a business where you're going to have a 9-to-5 and get paid like you work at the post office. You want that, you work in the post office. This is a winner-take-all business. You get in this, you may have a comic book that sucks, that for some reason becomes the next Simpsons. That's the business. That's how it works. But the idea that you're going to get into it, I'm going to have the next Naruto. I see this so many times, and it always breaks me. I have to tell people, that's not how this industry works. It's a luck of the draw. It's talent. It's a combination of timing. If it works, it's going to really work. If it doesn't work, you may have a second job to pay your bills. You do it for the love. You don't do it for the money.
Like on that, JR, so what did you present to them that wowed them so much for them to bring you on? What was
That's funny because my first story did not wow.
okay.
Yeah, no. But after Anime NYC, we kept talking. And what I presented to them later was Underground, this series. It's a biracial main character who uses who fights in underground fight scenes with Taekwondo.
Okay.
So basically, what I did was after I presented my first story was I refined it to encapsulate more of like who I am as a person into my creation, because I myself practice martial arts and I myself am biracial. My main character is half Black, half Korean, and I've learned a lot about Korean culture just practicing things like Taekwondo and Hapkido. So when I presented that story later, you know, it was a bit more of a wow.
Okay. So each of you all handle your story and art when you're putting together your manga?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have editors to go over it.
Okay, cool. So like what's your typical workload? How long does it typically take you guys to put out a finished story?
For me, it kind of depends. It kind of depends, but usually what I do is I'll finish it up, and usually like in a month, one chapter, unless I have a lot of time, in which case I can try to work on several chapters at once. So that's what I've been doing. So I'll finish up 3 chapters all in 1 month, and then I have like 3 months worth of material. So I've been trying to like get on that train, and that's basically what I'm doing. So.
Okay. How about you, Pop?
Dang, I didn't know that, yo, Jay. That's crazy. That's incredible. I gotta say. I finish like a chapter a month, I think is like my limit. I'm trying to go faster, honestly. I think I can like push myself to like keep going. It's gonna be one of those like maybe 3 a.m. is my limit, but you know, that's amazing, Jay.
So 1 chapter a month. Did that say for you? Is that the recurring theme? Fred, anybody?
Yeah, a month for me sounds about right.
Probably same. Like if we're talking actual working time, because for me it's kind of probably like if I did it all at once, it probably would be about a month, but it's probably spread over 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say I'm closer to Mitch in that regard. I sometimes around 2 months. It depends on my workload.
Yeah, and the number of pages. I think that's the other one that you kind of that obviously makes a huge difference. If you're talking,
what's the average number of pages you guys? 14 pages per chapter?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what they. We let me put it this way: we mandate around 7 to 14, depending on the frequency of the magazine they're in. We have 3 magazines, so depending on the magazine frequency, if it's monthly, we say, hey, at least give us 7 pages, which is what's done in the UK in an anthology called 2000 AD. They do about 7-page stories per. Okay. They come out every week, but still, they come out frequently. But for Saturday PM and Saturday Brunch, which are quarterly magazines, we look for at least 14, somewhere around there. But the folks here can speak on for themselves. I don't know.
I have a question here. I'll pull it up. It says here, what do you all recommend for young aspiring manga artists to do in order to enter the industry? For instance, structured art classes. Are there any organizations that nurture Japanese artists that are accessible in the US?
So all of these, there are things for all of these. the first thing I would say in terms of aspiring young manga artists to the industry is to get your work out there by having an online portfolio. That's just level one. Frequently, people reach us when we get notes 6-7 times a day, every day, like, "Hey man, how do I join y'all?" and so forth. And it never fails. You know, we click on their profile and there's nothing there. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing there. Like, it's like, you know, memes and gifts. It's like, no man, like, you know, please give us your have a portfolio that we can see. In terms of programs, because the last question was kind of, I couldn't quite tell the last question what was, because it talked about Japanese manga. If they're asking, can the average non-Japanese person get into Japanese manga? The answer is, for now, as it has been for what, 70 years, 60 years, you know, since the industry got started in Japan? No, right? I mean, it's like that. I mean, like, you know, it's the most extreme case that you get in there. One, that you like if you live in Japan. Two, you need to speak Japanese. So again, when we started Saturday AM, that was the entire point, was that there's a lot of people who love manga style, like your son, who love manga style content. They want to create manga style content. They're never going to speak Japanese. They're never going to move to Japan. Japan does not make it easy, by the way, to move to Japan and work and so on and so forth. So it's like, if that's the question, is, hey, well, how do I get published in Japan? Your guess is as good as mine, and I've been doing this for a very long time. I don't see how you do it. They just have proven to be. I think it's also important to say that again, the diversity piece is a big one, right? Like, you know, to do what, right? Like, if you're not Japanese and you're not part of the culture, most of their manga features Japanese characters. So what are you gonna do, right? Like, if they've not shown a propensity to want to publish content about a black character or a Latino character, if that's your truth, it's hard to make that happen. So again, have a portfolio, an online, publicly viewable portfolio. Number two is, if you need, you know, there are art books, as Jay mentioned before, as you mentioned, Money, we've got tons of platforms where you can go and discover how to create manga content. White Manga's got a popular YouTube channel. Jay has a lot of popular videos across TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. We have our Hollyverse manga book coming out. We do art contests, which are sponsored by major art companies. We've had something like this March Art Madness, which happens next month. It's our biggest event of the year. Last year, we gave away a professional art contract. Artists got paid, possibly their first time, working for a toy company. This year, it's going to be with a video game company. So there are opportunities out there. I will say, you know, again, if you really want to, if you're not Japanese and you want to have the best bet, at the very least, getting yourself out there, seeing what's all out there, and I say this with all due respect, please follow us, check out our app. We're constantly sharing information, and we obviously have a number of it we do on our own.
No, I'm definitely going to follow up on that. It's for the Summer of Manga.
Summer of Manga, yeah. Yeah, and we'll start
taking, follow up on it.
Yeah, we'll start taking submissions. Start taking submissions for that in April, just as an FYI.
Okay, cool, great. And also, I wanted to ask, is sort of like, because manga is so connected to the Japanese culture specifically, as far as you being you all being a diverse company and diverse artists, do you all ever suffer from, you know, what they call imposter syndrome? Like, you are, you know, proficient in the art form, but is there ever a time where someone might come across your work and say, well, because you're not a part of the Japanese culture directly, that your work is, you know, doesn't come up to snuff, or they're kind of comparing what you guys do to what might be coming out of the country directly? How do you as artists handle that?
So I'll let them speak in a moment, but I'll just answer this very quickly, because it's a very simple answer. No. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if someone were to stop to us and say that, I'm gonna make it very clear. I travel around the world. A lot of folks have. Let me tell you something right now. As a person who grew up in America, I'm 47 years old. I see folks all the time doing hip hop in these countries. Hip hop is a Black American art form. So when you want to start giving me my reparations for hip hop that your country's appropriated, then I'll answer questions about whether or not somebody Black, Latino, UK, from Senegal, from Brazil can do manga. When you want to give me my paycheck for hip hop, I'll give you back your paycheck for manga. I think it's ridiculous. And the thing that kills me about it is that the people who bring it up Here's my favorite part about this. I'm never Japanese. I ain't never had a Japanese person say something like that to me. It's always sad to say a young person who doesn't know their own culture. Black and brown people are the ones who usually bring this stuff up, and I'm like, you clearly don't know your culture if you bring this up. Shame, but no, I've never had it directed to me in recent years. But when we first got started, yes, we got a number of people who try to throw that card out there. I don't play that game. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anyone else want to offer an opinion on that? You non-Japanese folks?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, there's been a lot of people that told me the same thing. You know, I've changed my style like drastically to look even more cartoony. So that way, when people look at it, they're even more confused. They're like, is this manga or is this a cartoon? And I think that blurred line makes them stay and not even like, you know, care whether or not like it's like looks Japanese or not. And I think that as long as it entertains you and as long as it's like, you know, fulfilling whatever needs you're trying to get from, you know, reading manga or any type of comic, and that's all I'm worried about. So, but I have had a lot of people tell me, you know, hey, this isn't manga. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, you know, comics in general, like, you know, there's several different styles. So, like, you know, I Oda is super cartoony as well. And, you know, I'm if you look at his old work, it looks completely different than it does today. And, like, people still consider that manga. So, I mean, people consider Disney manga inside of Japan. So, I mean, you know,
let's make sure we offer some common sense here, too. The word manga in Japan means comics. I mean, that's just it means comics. The word anime means animation. They refer to cartoons in America as anime in Japan. So, again, it always is. It's folks who've never been to Japan, don't know the Japanese culture, who make comments like that. They're just frankly ignorant. I mean, it's just again like you go tell a young person who's doing hip hop in Japan that they don't make hip hop. Go tell them that. They're not. They're gonna dust you off their shoulder in a heartbeat.
Yep. Yeah. I do have a quick question for Pop. Actually, a question came through. Do your academic achievements directly impact and inspire your work, or did your work inspire you to pursue art education?
I think I was very fortunate when I was younger to like grow up with like a family that was like really into the arts. I think my mom was a painter when she was in her undergrad and went into anthropology, and my father, you know, he did like woodworking and stuff. So I was like surrounded by it, and I was like in love with like manga and anime when I was younger. So I think I just sort of followed that. You know, I did a lot of theater when I was younger too, so I like sort of followed that, and I did I'm doing my master's right now at Yale right now. So I think I take it like really seriously. You know, I take and I love it, and so you know, like yeah, I'll push myself in the way like the work, you know, what the work needs. I'm going to sort of act on that, and I think that's what's really important when you're a creator in general, and no matter what the medium that you're doing, is that you need to sort of act on in behalf of that work, and also in behalf of sustaining yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so yeah, I think that the whole sort of trope of like the starving artist, I think it's really a wide range. I think there's massive amounts of artists in the world. There's different kinds of artists. It's so open that I think that you can live a life as an artist and not be starving, and not be like LeBron James or I don't know, like huge guys. So it really depends on what you yourself are willing to put in, you know.
Right. For sure. We're almost running out of time here. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Any tips? Any things that inspired? What's inspiring you all? What's inspiring your work now? You know, Jay was saying like he's changed up his style to be a little bit more cartoony. What are you guys? What are some things you guys are trying out artistically with your stories?
Well, on note that Jay changed up his style to be more cartoony. When I was applying, I actually did more of the opposite, and my style sort of became more hyper realistic. But that's because I ended up going towards the the seinen magazine, the more adult magazine. So I guess my advice to a lot of people is to take your criticism and kind of roll with it. Some people really are just trying to help you. So as I kind of got into the industry, I took my work and just tried to show it to as many people as possible, and that's helped me grow. So my advice to people who are trying to get in there is to connect with as many people in the industry as possible.
Yeah, I was. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to piggyback off that and say I did a very similar thing when I mean, you can look back in my first chapter of Henshin in Brunch, and that was also quite cartoony compared to the style now. And I kind of adapted my style based on the magazine and the kind of other content in there, with Brunch being more josei and LGBTQ focused. So my style has done a very similar thing. But I would say another tip is use whatever resources you have available to you, which sounds obvious. But I'm using, I do all my art digitally, and I use Clip Studio Paint. And Clip Studio Paint is really, really good for like 3D models and perspective grids and stuff. Like perspective grids just doesn't make sense to me. But using using Clip Studio Paint, it kind of it takes all the math out of it, and it will give you guides. So as no matter where you draw, it will always be true to that perspective. Right. Which, I mean, you know, for like drawing buildings and rooms and stuff, it's incredible. And so I would say use whatever you have to make your life easier as an artist. I think there's this kind of perception of like, no, you've got to do everything by eye. You can't use reference. It's got to be totally off the dome. And it's like, nah, like, especially
that's one of the big, in Clip Studio Paint. I just so recently started using Clip Studio Paint. And one of the things I love about it is that it occurred to me, it's like, oh, people have been cheating on this time using Clip Studio Paint, like all the references, the ton of references and the perspective grid. And then you can put in the whole you can make a living room set and then draw on top of it. I was just like, oh, people have just been, cutting and pasting this whole time. And I've been sitting here trying to study wood furniture, how to, get, crown molding right and everything. And it's just like, it's this ton of references in this program. It just makes the job like 10 times faster. And
especially if your panel is going to be this big and someone's going to look at
it.
Right. Why spend 6 hours on it? It's like,
right. It's like, I don't know. It's like, and it's like, it became very disheartening that I hadn't gotten to Clip Studio Paint sooner. So I'm always, whenever I get a chance, I'm always telling young people, like, because I get a lot of questions as to what programs that they should start in. And I'm always telling them Clip Studio Paint, just for the price point. It's very, easy. It's very accessible, very inexpensive, not expensive at all. And it's a great tool to start, especially because it's such a professional tool that you can still use it, as long as you have a career in, illustration or in art. It's definitely a tool that can, grow with you. So I'm constantly referring, giving that advice to parents and to kids. Real quick. So Fred, I gotta make sure I'm talking to the right Fred. Tornager. Did I pronounce it right? I might have messed it up.
No, you good.
No. I recently told some students, I was doing a panel on graphic design. I'm a graphic designer by trade. And I was basically telling the young people that they should not be afraid to say yes before they are ready. Right? So so it's like, it might take a lot of risk. It might be a lot of fear involved, but they should definitely, give it a shot to really, present their work and try to do professional work, even if they're not ready. You never know what happened. Did you find that was the case for you, or were you like totally prepared and super confident when you brought your work? You was like, yeah, they're gonna eat this up.
Well, I didn't know. I definitely had to throw myself into it because you can have trouble figuring out if you're actually ready, but it doesn't hurt to try. Always just try and put yourself out there. The worst that can happen is a rejection, and then move on.
Mm-hmm. This is so true. And I appreciate. Do you have anything else, Mr. Frederick Jones, that you want to close out with?
Yeah, just three quick things. Number one is again, thank you, Peep Game Comix, for letting us be a part of this. Because I think it's amazing. You know, you bring together this many amazing creatives and voices that need to be seen and heard. I love that you guys are doing this. Hopefully, this is something that in this virtual world we can do more frequently. Because obviously, in the physical world, we saw a lot of Comic-Cons didn't pay enough attention to a lot of the diversity out there. Now, virtual, hopefully, it's a little easier to get different voices together. So I hope you guys do this again. Number two is, again, you know, folks, you want to support 30 AM. Again, you know, our whole mission is to bring manga, which is the fastest, that and young adult graphic novels. Those are the fastest mediums right now in the United States in the comic industry. We bring both of those things together with diversity. We put together great creators from all over the world, creating really cool comics starring typically young characters. In the manga art style and aesthetic. If you want to support us, you can do so with our app. It's called Saturday AM Global Comics. And you can find it on iOS or Android. You can go to our website at www.saturday-am.com/app, APP, and you'll just find the apps there. Yep, there we go. We also have a second app coming on the app side of things, and it's all built. Obviously, we touched on a little bit of it today, but it's my mission. Same way my mission was 8 years ago, was to bring more diversity to manga and anime, and we've created a revolution with that, which we're very proud of. Now it's about trying to get young people to have a really good pipeline into creating comic books, to have a real stable opportunity to create comic books. That means, first and foremost, getting them connected to companies. And that means number two is eliminating this toxic behavior that we see too many young people involved in, whether it's getting involved in kind of trolling and harassment, sexual violence, racism. We're trying to stamp that out because it has no place in comics. You can't believe in diversity as we do with the creation of Saturday AM, and then at the same time let young people get part of really disgusting behavior that will haunt them as they go into professional careers. So we're creating a new app called Pilot Manga by Saturday AM. It's going to launch in mid-March, and the entire idea again is bring a platform for young creators, a positive platform where they can come, receive, opportunities to be seen, to get prizes from major companies and so forth, and have a chance to create, to live in their creativity without being stigmatized by groups that are just trying to disrupt and cause harm. And the last thing, of course, is just, just real quick, we got physical magazine, please. Please make sure you pre-order this. It's going to be available on Amazon probably in the next week or two. But it's called Super Saturday, all original content. You can get our stuff there. Of course, we have our toys. Don't forget to buy our toys, a hot topic. We're everywhere, folks. We're everywhere. So please support us.
All right, that's awesome. And I really appreciate that platform for young people because, my son, and I was speaking as a parent, I know for a fact that, these students want to, communicate online and, they have, find their tribe online. And I know for a fact that all these platforms are, worrisome for parents because they're not completely safe. So just the idea of creating a safe place for young artists to share their content and just basically build a community around what they're doing is like a wonderful idea. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I take it very seriously. We're trying to make that happen. You saw what happened with Cam Newton last week. We trying to make sure we tap stuff like that down. I'm saying young people need to, recognize the opportunities before them, be given a platform to honestly get a chance ahead and not be trying to live in this kind of trolling environment where everything's got to be a gotcha and stuff like that. We're trying to get an honest place in for these young people. So hopefully when we get it ready, man, we can share that with your audience.
Oh, thank you. Please stay in touch. All right, this is Saturday AM on a Saturday, no less. Follow them on all social media, and we'll be back with a little bit more. Thank you.